What's good? Welcome to the Bird Joy Podcast. I'm Dexter Patterson.
And I'm Jason Hall. This is the podcast for all the bird nerds, the bird homies that want to find a little bird joy. So join us.
Are you ready for some bird joy? Let's go. What's good, bro?
Not much, man. Living the dream out here.
It's crazy. I swear it never ceases to amaze me. Every time this time of year, I always get the question, what kind of camera you use? What type of gear do you use? When I was a beginner birder, that stuff was overwhelming for me. Yeah. I didn't know what I needed or anything like that. I think it might be worth the time for us just to talk a little bit about birding on a budget. You're getting started, not breaking the bank when you're first starting, when you're first starting to get out there, because you don't know what you necessarily don't know at that time. So like you just start birding and you go out and you spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a scope and thousands of dollars on a camera and some lens or whatever it might be. That might be a little bit much. That might just be a little bit much. So let's talk a little bit about when you're first getting started, what type of gear you actually need to go birding.
Let me preface this with saying that if you buy expensive gear too early, you put a lot of pressure on yourself to bird in a way that may not be at your skill level yet. I fell into this a lot early on. It was like I wanted the 600 millimeter lens, but I wasn't good enough birder yet, right? And it took me a while to understand that I needed to be with the birds with just the binoculars for a while. And I didn't need to worry about trying to get the perfect shot just yet. And so to get started, like I think we talked about this in a previous episode, right? It's just getting yourself a decent pair of binoculars, right? Whatever your budget can handle. There are different options from $100 all the way to $4,000 for a pair of binoculars. Really just a matter of finding ones that are the right weight for you, decent enough glass for you to see, feel like you still have an intimate view of the bird. And one of the ways we talked about saving a little money is in your area, you may have bird clubs that provide them, right? For the bird outings, you may have libraries that allow you to check them out. I would encourage people to look online for used pairs, like gently used pairs. I would get pairs that are maybe made in the last 10 years because some folks will sell you binoculars from like the 1970s. And unless they kept them in pristine condition, they're usually not that great. If you have a pair that, let's say your grandpa used and passed them down and they're in good shape, do it. Really just look for ways to minimize the entry point, in terms of costs for the binoculars. So when we're talking about birding on a budget, one of the things that your budget first wants to handle is a pair of binoculars. So I think those are good ways to get started.
The thing is if you have those, that's all you really need.
Yeah.
You don't need to go any further than that. And I think a lot of people get confused. Like, all right, I got binoculars. Now what's next? Now what's next? Like literally you could be done.
Yeah. And I think it comes from birding is this thing that it's like a snowball. Like you ever joke with people that just get started birding and they come to you and they're so excited. And they're like, man, I just saw my first palm warbler, right? And they're about to see like 20 other warbler species in the first few years of their birding life. And you're like, you have no idea. Your life is about to change, And so there's this natural, joyful, anticipatory nature of birding that bleeds itself into the gear part of it, to the budgeting and purchasing part of it. And it's really hard sometimes to explain to people that you need to separate the two. Again, and I think we've said this before, if you have Jay-Z money, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But if you, like 99.99% of us in this country, at least, and around the world, have a budget that they have to stick to in order to, maintain the resources for themselves and their family, get the binoculars first. If you're going to get a camera, start off with a simple, gently used or used DSLR. You don't got to go straight to the mirrorless cameras and all the fancy stuff just yet. But a lot of people are selling their DSLRs because they're going mirrorless. Some of them have low shutter counts. They're still in good shape. Get one of those and a little 70 to 300 millimeter zoom lens and you're good. Right. That's actually how I started. Right. I got a gift of a DSLR. It's like, I think a few $100 with a little starter lens and I was off to the races. But like I said, you very quickly want to upgrade everything because you think it's going to get you more birds. And that's not actually true. What gets you more birds is more birding.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think that's a great one. What gets you more birds is more birding, not more gear.
That's right. That's
The
right.
gear can kind of get you maybe a little closer. I would also, to piggyback on the camera part, I always tell people look for point and shoot cameras right away. Like if you're brand new and you're a beginner, I say go point and shoot because a lot of them have amazing zooms.
They do.
So when they ask me, people always ask me, what type of camera should I get? I'm just getting started. I don't have a huge budget. And I say, go get a point and shoot camera that shoots in 4K with a 1200x zoom on it or something, because there's so many options now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy what these point and shoot cameras can actually do.
Yep.
And start there. And I bet you it'll last you a couple years if you're getting started and you have the reach, which I think that's what most people look for when they upgrade their lens is they're typically going for more reach. So if you're just getting started, you won't have a reach problem with many of these newer point and shoot cameras, and you still get pretty good image quality.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of folks start that way. They go get a nice, fresh Nikon cool pics and they get after it, And one thing I want people to understand is that photography, like birding, is its own world, man.
Photography is not birding. We should just say that.
Right. It is not, right? You can be a photographer who is also a birder. You can be a photographer who's not a birder, somebody who just likes taking pictures of birds but has no idea what you're taking a picture of. But photography has its own skill set, right? And similar thing is true with the binoculars. Like get good with what you have, learn how to use it, learn the principles of aperture and light and shutter speed and all that fun stuff, right? ISO. And then once you've mastered the situational awareness of when to use certain things, then think about upgrading. It's the same thing with your binoculars. If they're working for you during daylight hours and you can see things great, you're not missing any birds, cool. But let's say you decide, you've been a birder for a couple of years and you're like, man, I really want to get out this winter and I want to find some of these crazy waterfowl. Let me go look at getting a scope. That makes sense, right? But don't jump straight to the top. Unless you got that Jay-Z money, look for a nice used scope or a starter scope, Kawa, Vortex. There's some other companies out there that I think have some good ones. Celestron, I think, has a good one. And just use it to better your skill as a birder. And we'll probably talk about this. Principle of birding on a budget is not comparing yourself to everybody every second. And it's a really hard thing to do because birding is naturally this like, oh, what's on your life list? How many birds have you seen in the county, in the state? Right? And so you start to look at your own inventory and you're like, man, my life list is only like 95 and I don't have a 600 millimeter lens. If I get a 600 millimeter lens, maybe my life list can be 500. And it's like, that's not the way that works,
No. Please take that pressure off yourself.
Yes, take it
goes
off.
back to like what I said. When I miss a bird, the attitude of like, I'm like, man, I'm going to see it. Yeah. I'll see it one of these times, I'll see it. Just try to keep that attitude. I know it's hard. And I think it's very important not to compare yourself to the other people that you may see out there. Maybe they got the Jay-Z budget and 20 years of experience. You have no clue.
That's right.
You don't know, and it's like, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. Make it kind of your own experience. DIY your birding experience, do it your own way. It doesn't matter what your birding gear is. You could start by like doing stuff at home. Maybe it's like homemade bird feeders or bird houses or bird baths or just observing birds in your backyard or your front yard or from your porch or balcony or window or whatever it may be. I know I walked into Target the other day, bro. They got they're selling a new bird feeder that sticks on the front of your window.
Yeah.
It's like right when you walk in Target where they sell like all the little stuff on the left for like a couple dollars. Yeah. They got the bird feeder just chilling over there that you stick on your window. And I've been seeing them out there.
Bro, I've been
seeing them out there in the world.
I got one.
You got one.
So somebody got me one for Christmas. It was it sticks on my window. But the way it faces into the house on the border of it, it looks like you're watching a YouTube video. It's got the YouTube like outer border. So I have like the little house finches and the Carolina wrens show up, and I'd be like just standing at the window like a creep, just watching them, eat these seeds and stuff. And
that's hilarious.
But you mentioned making your own bird feeders, right? Like we did this great event down at the Chester at a library in Chester, PA, where they had us take pine cones and cover them in like animal derived fat or lard, and then roll them in, some high quality bird seed and just tie them to some biodegradable string. It was
fun.
one of I did it as an adult. There was like 4 of us after the bird walk that went to go do it at this library. It was like the best time ever. Put it up in my backyard, and a little, tufted titmice were hopping in, chickadees, some woodpeckers. And it was great because it was low impact. It was fun to do. It's something you could do with your family, which, that's a great way to introduce kids to birding, is to make a bird feeder or a bird house and let them then find the joy in the birds coming to them, right?
Yeah,
like
dude.
that's
Get
low key,
some, all natural peanut butter and stuff like that. You can make it with a lot of different things.
A lot of stuff.
Want to do some affordable at home DIY? Make it your own way. Have some fun with it, man.
Yeah,
it is supposed to be fun, right?
It's supposed to be, right?
Like the bird bath too. Like if you can get any type of water source, if you have the opportunity, you're always going to have some type of fun, interactive experience with a bird.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it clean, and you have fresh water. And if it's running water, the better. They hear that, and they're kind of attracted to that. The sound of running water. Fresh water too is a huge help, especially if you're already feeding birds. Bird baths are super entertaining, dude.
They really are. They really are. And like I can't stress it enough. Like my bird bath is not super fancy. I've seen some wild ones where they got waterfalls and little spritzes. It's mostly on the West Coast because they have a plethora of riches out there of these like hummingbirds that like to spritz themselves through the water bath. I found it was like $15 on Amazon, I think, and it was a little solar bird bath fountain that just floated. And
yeah.
And just,
I know what you're talking about.
And it's like $15.
It creates the movement for you.
Yeah. And so you don't have to go out either and buy like a big stone bird bath. Just get, the plates that you put at the bottom of potted plants. You can get one of those. Just set it on a platform somewhere in your yard, on your balcony. Put that little solar John in there. And I promise you, the birds will come. Because you would think that calm, safe water sources are everywhere, but they're not. If you were in the forest, most birds aren't going to go down to the part of the river that the water is rushing fast and they're exposed, right? They're going to go find underneath the thicket, underneath the understory. They're going to find that little creek that's feeding into the river where they have some cover and they can sneak up and the water's not moving too fast. So your bird bath is similar to that. It's making noise. It's soft water. It's in a safe environment, hopefully wherever you are, right? And you can do it yourself and it's not going to cost you more than $20.
Yeah, I love that. Birding at the crib, man.
Yeah,
birding at the crib, birding in the neighborhood. Start that backyard birding list. Start a neighborhood list. That's fun stuff. Fun stuff.
Yeah, backyard bird lists or house lists or block lists, neighborhood lists, patch lists. You really start to take inventory of how many bird species you have in your area if you're doing it regularly. And every time you get a new one, it's exciting and it's yours. That's the part that people don't understand, is like, you don't actually own the bird, but it's like, this is my list. It's like those Instagram reels, right? Birding is Pokemon, right? Like this is my Pokedex, like these are my Jones. These are my homies in my neighborhood.
I bought a new house last year.
Yeah.
And you know how excited I was when the Osprey
I was texting you. I remember. I was like, where are you going to put them bird feeders though?
Yeah. And I got them all over now. Bro, do you know how excited I was when my spark bird, the Osprey, showed up in my neighborhood? I was done. I was like, I was supposed to move here. I was so dramatic.
Your wife was probably like, what is wrong with him?
Yeah, I was doing the most, bro. I'm talking about I was doing the most. The most I've ever done. I did more.
Yeah, I hear you. No, bro, I got you.
I'm like, no way, the Osprey. And then it came back, and I was like, this is crazy. Yeah. This is crazy.
That's awesome, man. And we have one of our founding board members, Bernie Wilson. He just texted us this morning. He was like, I had my first pine warbler in my yard at my suet feeder. And I know I can see him. He saw it. He probably tripped over a bunch of stuff to go get his camera. And I know I can feel how excited he was, so like I'm trying to think. My last yard bird was a green heron flyover, and it was the best because I don't got no like creeks really near me that they would hang out in. But that John just flew over my backyard. What's the best?
Green heron in the backyard is kind of crazy.
It's not bad though. It's not bad. I don't want to make this a whole yard bird episode, but you will be surprised how many bird species fly over where you live, whether you're in the city, suburbs, in the country. If you're in the city, I promise you, just look up. At the very least, you're going to have migrating raptors. You'll probably have flocks of geese. If you're in the Midwest, you're definitely going to have a bunch of sandhill cranes flying over. We had a freaking white pelican fly over Philadelphia last year, which was wild. Like one of the homies was just sitting on his like rooftop deck and looked up and was like, what the? In the summer, you might get a kite, or something that comes up from the south. Like I promise you, just enjoy the space you're in. I have a lot of friends who are birders that don't have yards. They live in high rises or apartment buildings, and they have balconies. They have little plants on the balconies, and they do a lot of birding of the sky. And they tell me like it's one of their favorite. Christian Cooper, he sits on his rooftop and is looking at peregrine falcons and kestrels.
Yeah, I was gonna say
chilling
you might see
in the middle.
You might see any type of falcon or something.
Yeah, you might see something getting got right.
You see, I got getting snatched. I got the
see that. That's a nice hat. That's a nice hat. Is that the Bird Collective, John?
Yeah, shout out to the Bird Collective.
Yeah, that's right.
Unsolicited, unsolicited. You see, we showing love just out of nowhere.
I mean that might be what I was rocking earlier. That loon, that loon hat.
I'm like always in some Bird Collective.
Yeah,
so,
me too.
I freaking love it. So shout out to the Bird Collective.
Yeah, shout out to
them. I look good in your stuff.
Yeah, it looks good on my peanut butter skin. I tell you that much.
Oh, see.
What else?
I like wearing little murderers on my head.
Yeah, that's right. You gotta watch up. You gotta listen to episode 5 for that one, folks.
Yeah.
So I mean, we covered binoculars, we covered cameras,
but yeah, I would always say you touched on it a little bit. Explore those secondhand options, man. There are a lot of resources online where you can get discounted gear, and why not? A lot of this stuff is as good as new as it's gonna get, man. And you're literally just trying to learn. What better way to learn on some discounted equipment in your own backyard or in your neighborhood or in a park near you,
That's right. And we talked about that kind of stuff and a couple other things. One is bird guides, right? Like you don't go find a used bird guide for your area, right? There's probably a guide that, I guarantee there's probably a Birds of Nebraska bird guide that you can find used online. You can buy, just a full Eastern United States bird guide. Look around and look at the ones that you think you would like. Would you like ones with more pictures? Would you like ones with more drawings? If you don't want to buy a bird guide, just download the Merlin Bird ID app, All About Birds, on allaboutbirds.com. I think there are free resources out there and just tons of information.
Continue to stress them, go out and getting involved too. Especially when you're first getting started, get involved. Yeah. Really do. Join up with a local club, like, something like what we do with our clubs. Yep. But there's always some type of local organization that's going to be putting on field trips to explore like all these really cool places.
Yep. And they're usually low cost options.
Yeah, lower cost, and they're kind of handling. They do a lot of the work for you. They take the guesswork out. It's a great way to get started. So check out the local clubs, and I know a lot of them too. They'll have like scholarship or lower fee options for families and different things like that.
That's right.
But many of them, like you said, are minimal registration fees and things like that, or if not free. I tell people if it's free, it's me.
Hey.
If it's free, it's me. I'm there.
I got you. Yeah, and that's speaking of transport.
I mean, most public park in the nature reserve.
Yeah, most of those spaces are free too. There's a couple big national parks that I know are not. They also offer discounts for different groups of folks, so definitely check that out, especially for kids. Transportation. Let's talk about that a little bit because it's something that we find to be quite a challenge at times around Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia, I would say, has a pretty good public transit system. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's pretty good in terms of reaching a lot of the green spaces that are in Philadelphia County proper. But I encourage folks to explore that. Explore where the buses run, where the trains run, the trolleys. We have trolleys out here. And be prepared to spend a little extra time, maybe, if you're using public transit, because it's not usually as quick as, either an Uber or driving yourself. Explore a bike. So I don't know if you guys have this in Madison or in Milwaukee, but we have these small bike rental companies where you can just kind of check it out from the little bike stand and return it to any bike stand around the city. I think ours out here is called Indigo. But look at that, right? Or if you don't want to do that and you want to just get your own bike, get a used bike. I know a lot of birders that love birding by bike. It's also better for the environment. In terms of transportation, if you don't have a car, don't let that stop you. There usually are public transit ways. You just got to budget your time a little differently or get a bike. Or I have one friend that just told me yesterday that they started running and birding. I am superbly curious on how exactly they're doing that, but they're essentially running and listening while they run. I wouldn't be able to because my lungs and my breathing would be so awful that I wouldn't be able to hear anything other than myself dying from running. If that's you, do it. It's a way to save money, transport yourself, get some exercise, and still go birding. Right? If you say, hey, I'm going to go bird at that wildlife refuge, it's a mile away. I'm going to run there, go birding, run home. That's cool, right? But don't leave yourself to thinking that birding is only for people with cars, because it's not.
Public transportation is a really good one. That neighborhood, walk in your own neighborhood, birding parks near you that's within walking distance. Most parks have access to the bus lines and bigger cities. And I don't want to put every city into that category, but for the most part, you should be able to get to any public park, you would think, by bus if it's a public park. Mm-hmm. There are typically nature preserves Horicon National Wildlife Refuge. It's obviously it's a car ride away. You could try to organize a carpool with multiple people, and that's something we'll do. With the club, we'll have people, we'll carpool, and we'll actually do Google Docs and have people sign up beforehand and try to organize that way more people feel, they don't have to take their own vehicle. Obviously better for the environment. We get more people not riding out to these less cars going out to the refuge and things like that. I think there are really good opportunities to just take advantage of the things that are around you, and don't get discouraged of the fact of repeat visits. You learn that spot. I still go my favorite spots, I go to over and over and over and over again. And it's every time I go, I learn something different, or I'll notice something different, or you'll see something different, or you'll meet someone different time. Or don't let that discourage you. Oh, I'm only near this one park. That's your spot. So who cares? And who cares? Keep going to it and keep going to it and just keep paying attention, because you're going to see something new every single time.
Yeah. Let me tell you what happened to me today. I'm doing this Pennsylvania Bird Atlas, and I have this little 1 mile by 1 mile block that I'm responsible for over the next 5 years to bird. And I'm birding the park that my son plays at the playground. It's right up the street. And I'm walking the backside of the park is this preserved woodland and this little field that they only cut once a year. And I'm just walking, I'm just doing my bird saver, right? I'm looking for singing birds maybe carrying nesting material. Homie, I turn to the right. There's a squirrel on this tree, and it runs into this little hole. But it wasn't a normal eastern gray squirrel. It didn't have a big tail. It was probably half the size, and it was grayish. It wasn't brown or red. It was a flying squirrel, bro. It was an eastern flying squirrel. And I've been told that they're in this area, and I've had friends that say, they actually fly at night and they make more noise at night.
Yeah, they don't come out easy.
But my other buddy said that he sees them. The only one he's ever saw has been in the daytime. And I think I startled it because it just ran. And the way it, a normal squirrel would just kind of run up the tree. This John looked like it was it looked almost like a gecko walking on it was flat against it, not expanded, but just in my head, I'm this is why I came birding. I was happy just to be logging all these singing cardinals and eastern towhees. And I watched some territorial defense of a towhee chasing 2 blue jays out of its nesting area. And I get this bonus mammal. And so I didn't go far. I went a block up the street. And so it's just a testament to there are things around you, right, that you can notice if you go there often. And I probably birded that park 100 times. Staying local, using public transport, affordable, use binoculars if you can, free bird ID apps and websites. starting point and shoot cameras, right? These are all ways to minimize the entry point to birding. I'm trying to think like what else there would be out there that's a huge cost. I know there's another layer of this when it comes to like birding on a budget for travel, like travel birding. And that is interesting. And there's a number of things that people do for that. That one kind of bleeds the line between what's safe and what's not safe, right? I'm not going to suggest anybody to say, oh, I want to bird on a budget, so I'm going to backpack through Eastern Europe. You can. That's your call. Certainly will save some money. I just urge people to, like, if you're traveling abroad, look to bird on a budget in ways that doesn't compromise your safety, all right? Even if you're going to maybe not sign up for the most expensive birding trip to South Africa, that's fine. What you want to do is you want to find some bird clubs in South Africa that you can connect with. You want to find reputable places to stay, right, that are within your budget. You want to really plan out and map your route. Make sure you got all your paperwork for everything. But don't just go somewhere. Like, I'm not going to, like, there's a level of entitlement to just going somewhere and thinking you can do whatever you want to do. And I do not suggest that for anyone. The world is not necessarily that place. Most people are good, but that doesn't mean that there aren't folks out there that might try to take advantage of you. So I just want to give that little caveat around travel birding on a budget. Continue to do it safely, please.
Yeah, I would say don't want to travel at all. Just focus on trying to track the birds to your own.
That's
home.
right. That's right. Yeah.
So you use your own yard, and that means setting up bird feeders and keeping them clean, keeping them full, and keeping an eye on them. You never know what might be showing up.
Yeah.
I know a lot of times this time of year people like to put out mealworms.
I got them out right now, man.
See, because the birds are making long trips and they's are hungry.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I like to do is if you do have a little bit of a yard and you're doing a little yard work, one thing I'll do is I'll take a couple of days in between. Like if I'm just turning my soil in my garden, when I turn it, there's a lot of, worms, earthworms. So I won't immediately mix in any of my new soil. I'll just turn it. And then the robins they just descend.
Oh, crazy.
And I'm like, eat up, fellas, and ladies like, eat up, and I'll leave it like that for a couple of days and let them kind of pick at it and then go in and turn in the rest of my amended soil or whatever. It's one of my ways of saying like, thank you. You don't need me to do this.
And then you can sit out there, then you can sit out there with your Merlin app.
That's right.
And just listen and be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You start checking off birds on your little backyard bird list, adding birds to your backyard bird list. Like,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm at 5.
That's how I started, man. When we bought the house I'm in, we bought in 2017. And I was the same way as you. I was like, where am I? Like the first day where I was like, honestly, before we even closed, I'm looking at the Google map and I'm like, where in the yard am I putting the bird feeder? Because I was so excited just to sit here and just see what's around. It was a new space. So yeah, my first bird was a dark-eyed junco.
Hey, I be walking around the neighborhood and I see people with bird feeders and I be giving them this.
Yeah. That's where you have compadres around the neighborhood, right?
I be like, what's up?
Yeah.
Like probably like, what is dude doing? Why you just kind of give?
Man, I'm not gonna put it past me creeping on somebody else's bird feeder either, right? If you got some cool birds in your yard, I will creep.
The one thing I will say, do not point your binoculars inside people's houses.
No, don't do that.
Like that.
Don't do that at all. Yeah. But, one of the cool parts about letting the birds come to you is sometimes you get something really interesting that comes and hangs about your property or your balcony or your block for a while. And if you're connected to the right community, others are going to want to come see it. So it's an opportunity to invite folks into your space. And there's a lot of really awesome birders out there that allow folks on their property. Not that people that don't do it, they're not bad people. Some people just, they don't want a bunch of strangers at their house. But some folks do. And it's a really great community moment. I know around Philly, we regularly have vagrants pop up in random spots. I think I was maybe telling you in a previous episode that I drove out to see this red-flanked blue tail from Eurasia. And there was a lot of signage. And I was told in previous days, the owner came out with like fresh cookies and talked to people. So that, that kind of stuff is really awesome. Really awesome.
Yeah, they had it was like towards the end of fall, early winter. Somebody had an Allen's hummingbird in their yard, and they were letting people come for a while, but then people were like showing up unannounced.
Yeah.
And then that turned into the owner like I don't want nobody here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and you
Yeah.
got people can be traveling from all over the place, and
Mm-hmm.
next thing you know, people got like 10, 20 people coming to their yard. That can be
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And we
not
probably should.
everybody is a birder, or
Yeah.
even if
True.
they are a birder, they don't want like all this attention on where they lay their head at night. So
Yeah. Yeah. I get
it's
that.
a slippery slope.
It is. It is probably amendment to our previous episode on ethical birding, right? It's like, if it's not your property, make sure you have the right permissions to go there, and whatever rules they have out, follow those rules. You are not entitled to.
This is a comprehensive learning environment, Jason.
It is.
So we
It
look
really
back
is.
on things,
Yeah.
and we pull it back, and then we pull,
That's
a
right.
little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah. No, I love it, because at this point you can be an ethical birder, and you can have nice, starter gear. You didn't come out of your budget, and you're out there and you're birding, right? And you're having a good time. And really, birding is this place where you can settle in for as long as you want, right? You can bird your neighborhood as your primary birding experience for the rest of your life, and see tons of species and have great times and have great communities, right? You don't need to get on an airplane and fly to some far off country all the time, right? So
I think that's really important. I think that's really important. It's amazing what you see when you start to pay attention. I love that the little 1 block, or is it 1 mile or 1 block radius you're working in for your citizen science project.
Yeah.
I love the idea of doing citizen science projects, because a lot of that stuff is low budget and free too. So
that's right.
Whether it's Eastern bluebird nest box monitoring, or setting up, maybe making a little nesting box and hanging it outside in the tree, and seeing if a bird actually uses it. Like, that's got little stuff like that is fun.
Yeah, it's a really good point too. Like, folks should look at what are those conservation organizations around you in your city or your town or your state, and look at their websites and see what they offer. Like, for example, the Valley Forge Park near us, I was just informed that they have a bird count where they just give you a point in the park, like coordinates, and you just hit it for 10 minutes every 2 weeks for a 6-week period. So it's like 30 minutes total, right? That's really low impact. The 125 bus runs to Valley Forge. You could get out there and do it if you were in Philly, right? But it's a great way to meet some people, participate, explore a new area. You're not leaving the greater Philadelphia area, So I'd encourage folks to do that, whether you have a wildlife refuge, a national park, a state park, even sometimes private gardens and arboretums offer this kind of thing, right? So definitely check that out. That's a good point, Dex. I missed that.
Yeah, volunteer, man. Get involved.
Yeah,
Citizen
I love that.
science. That's that deeper. We talked about in episode 5 about having that understanding that, like, you're just a part of this. You're sharing this space with these birds. Once you take it to the next step, that citizen science, you're kind of giving back, and you're doing it just kind of, you go down the rabbit hole a little bit deeper, and you get a little more invested, and it just starts to all click and make sense. So I highly encourage people to get involved and just dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful, man.
Yeah, next thing you know, you're doing a bird banding event or something.
I know, right? Next thing you know, you got your hands on a northern saw-whet owl, and you're like, how did I get here?
How did this happen? Like, what is going? I'm holding a Connecticut warbler. Are you kidding me?
I know, right?
What?
Like, this all started with me just looking for some used binoculars online, and here I am. Let me just speak about clothing really quickly. A lot of folks, there is I think, healthy conversation right now around the cost of outdoor clothing for different reasons. But I would tell you, number one, for a birder, wear what's comfortable for you, what you know is going to be comfortable for you. I got homies out here that as soon as the weather hits 50 degrees, it's straight t-shirts and shorts. I can't do it, but they do it. That's what's comfortable for them. That's fine. Don't feel like you have to do something else. If you know you're going to go somewhere where you're walking through fields or places where there might be ticks, you don't need to go buy these special pants or socks or anything. Just whatever pants are comfortable, pull the socks over the pants, tie your shoes. You don't need $300 hiking boots. You need shoes that have grip and traction. You can walk a little bit in them if you're someone that is privileged enough to be able to walk everywhere. So really, I just want to encourage folks, like, don't get caught up in, I got to have this perfect tan vest from, North Face with all the pockets, and I got to have this perfect birding hat, these specific boots, like you don't. You really
No,
don't.
you don't. You
I'd
don't.
literally take people on hikes, 2.5 mile hikes in my Crocs. Like, let's chill. All right. Like we're not climbing Kilimanjaro, Everest. Now, if you're going to go somewhere where it's a little bit more challenging, yeah, sure. Right. But if we're talking about birding in your community as a way to enter birding and stay on a budget, you don't need to come out of pocket for a bunch of crazy stuff.
Yeah, there's something about that a nice sun hat though, bro.
Yeah, you can get a nice sun hat. Just don't feel like you got to spend like $180 on a sun hat, like
No, you don't. You don't. You
go
don't.
to your local garden store. They sell sun hats, probably
I say,
$20 a
bird as
piece,
you are, bird
you
as you
know,
are,
because I
bird as
have
you
to.
are.
I'm like bald, man. I can't be out there in the sun. I'll get burnt up on the top of my head.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
I
just
love
be
it.
comfortable because it'll make your birding more enjoyable, right? You won't be thinking, oh man, like, why did I buy these expensive pants? Now I'm all hot. I don't even like them. I should have just wore my sweatpants, which is what I wanted to do in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Just be yourself, and you'll learn things about yourself as you go birding, and that will define your comfort level. What you wear to go birding will be different than what you maybe wore to do a hike, which was at a faster pace, right? That's fine. But learn that about yourself. Do what's comfortable. I know a lot of people say like, you need to wear stuff that's not bright colors. Sure, if I'm stalking something in the forest, maybe. But for the most part, these birds are not like, I don't care what you think you're wearing. They see you coming. You're literally like 200 times the size of them. You look like a giant. You're not quiet. You're not sneaking up on this bird, right? Like, so yeah, maybe it's a little better if you have a green shirt instead of a neon yellow shirt. But honestly, like, it's not worth coming out of pocket to buy a whole new wardrobe for. If you like bright clothes, wear bright clothes, right? Some of these birds are some of the brightest things you'll ever see in your life. Do it, have a good time.
Wear it. Where would you want to wear it? Bird as you are.
Yeah, bird as you are. That's another one.
What was your bird nerd moment of the week, Jay?
Oh, I mean, honestly, it was probably that squirrel. Because it was, and I know where I assume it lives at that spot. I was texting my buddy. I was like, so I'm going to creep on it. But it was that just feeling of wonder of seeing something new, something unexpected. And what it did was it made everything else that much more sweet. All of the birds that I see regularly after seeing that squirrel, and what I assume is a flying squirrel, right? I'll have to confirm. Every singing cardinal, the Cooper's hawk pair that was chasing the red-tailed hawk, the singing towhees, chickadees, titmice, right? Everything was that much sweeter because I was like, you all are just so beautifully mine in my little patch here. And yeah, it was like a very grounding moment. So yeah. What about you, homie?
Man, I was out because it was saying that it was gonna rain, so I was like, all right, I got to get out real quick. So I got out real fast and heard the first meadowlark of the season. That was pretty cool. What got me was the eastern bluebirds, man. Like this time of year, like they're so bright. They want their mate to see them. Like they are so bright blue right now, where it's just like I just found myself like, look at all these. It wasn't even little murderers anymore, right? It was there were little paintings. That's what it looked like. It's like these
they are little paintings, aren't they?
Flying across the sky, and I was like, this is unreal. So my bird nerd moment of the week was definitely just seeing these eastern bluebirds, man, and I'm just
that's awesome.
Stunned every time I see them. I'm just like blown away.
Do you guys get any westerns or mountain bluebirds up there at all?
No, I can't even imagine getting those. I would go crazy.
I saw a picture yesterday. Someone had a hybrid mountain western bluebird, and I didn't even know they hybridized like that. But you guys are not so far from there. Like, I feel like they got to slide in every now and again. Maybe.
Well, it ain't slid yet. If it's slid, I'm sliding. That'd be one. I told you, like, ain't many birds I'll chase. I'm sliding on that one.
Yeah. The mountain bluebird is it's all blue. It's all different shades of blue. There's no orange.
It's unreal
or
how pretty they are.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
You never know. Like I said, I'll never say never. We had a Clark's Nutcracker pop up in our area this year.
I dipped on that in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago.
He was just hanging around. I was like, this is kind of weird. Wow. was not afraid of people or anything. It was so weird because there's these birds, and last episode we talked about ethical bird watching, but sometimes there are birds that are just not afraid of people.
No.
Or don't know no better or anything. And it's
that's
like,
usually what it is.
Like,
it's usually young birds that don't know.
You're not harming the bird, right? Like sometimes that happens. And I want people to know, like, you don't have to like run away from the bird. It don't care. If it doesn't care, like, it's not flying away. I've seen birds that, like, there was a prairie warbler, like, landing on people's feet. And then, like, there's little things that happen sometimes where you're just like, I can't explain this, but, like, it's going to happen. Enjoy that moment.
Yeah. And that's, you mentioned earlier, like, carpooling, and we talked about public transport, right? So as you get connected with these communities, you'll get, they'll probably say, hey, do you want to be on our bird listserv, or there's, Discord listservs or different rare bird alerts for different communities. As you do that, don't be afraid to ask if anybody's carpooling, right? Or look at the location and see if there's public transport there, right? So don't also feel like you can't chase a bird because you're not a driver. There may be bird clubs going to see that bird. Yeah, this was a good episode, man. I really kind of reconnected me with like when I started birding and having to learn that lesson around separating the gear from the practice. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I got this, a birding mentor of mine, Bob Welch. He passed away recently. And there's this picture of him and I. He was the person I first ever banded a bird with. And, like all these different things. Whenever I start losing focus, I'll look at that picture and I'm like, what would Bob do? Like one of those, like where I like check it to like get back to the essence.
Yeah.
And it's the bird, and it's caring about the bird, it's caring about their habitats, it's caring about their survival, because we want to be able to continue to enjoy them. Yes, when I'm gone, I want my kids to enjoy them. I want their kids to enjoy them, and my neighbors and all that. So ultimately, that's what it's really about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is lovely.
Oh, man. Yeah. I want to thank everybody for joining us again on the Bird Joy podcast. We hope you enjoyed exploring the world of birding with us.
And I am Jason Hall. Thank you all for joining us. If you want to check out what In Color Birding Club is doing, incolorbirding.org. Hit us up on Instagram at In Color Birding Club or Facebook.
And I'm Dexter Patterson. Make sure you check out what we got going on at the BIPOC Birding Club of Wisconsin at BIPOCbirdingclub.org. And please share, subscribe, and shout out the podcast to all your fellow bird nerds and help us spread a little bird joy.
Yes, sir. Until next time, brother.
All right, brother.
All right. Peace.